Let me do this for you guys. That was spicy. But anyways, in all seriousness, guys, welcome back to another Let's Play of Ultimate Spider-Man. Last time we had to deal with the Beetle. Now I believe we're getting into the final stuff of the Let's Plays. So we're going to do this in 2 parts, guys. So let's do this. The next mission I'm doing, I believe, is one of the final missions where, well, this one I have to deal with Silver Sable. So we're going to kind of get into that. But I figured I can kind of... I'm going to start with this. I haven't done this for you guys. I am ready to do this mission. Let's do it, guys. Let's fight. Well, let's race Johnny Storm. And, well, also, so, last time, I believe I was talking about, the Identity Crisis arc in Spider-Man, and that ends out with Peter kind of getting broken up with, and it's definitely going to be a little bit hard for me to talk about this. Peter now being, like, broken up with, like, he's heartbroken. Like, and I think this is the perfect time to introduce the symbiote suit. And so, I believe, like, the comic, or, well, the volume starts with, like, Peter just alone in the basement, and he's like, damn. And he like, even thinks about, like, calling Gwen and all this stuff, and breaks, like, his portable phone or something like that, and then he's like, damn it, I'm too edgy for this. And I absolutely love how extra he is in this moment. But yeah, oh my god, maybe it wasn't that hard, guys. But yeah, so with him breaking his phone, he gets, like, all emotional, moves some boxes downstairs in the basement, and so he moves these boxes, and he then, like, finds this, like, almost hidden doorway that he didn't know was there in his aunt's house, and it has, like, all these films from when his parents were still alive and all this stuff. And well, the one thing that, like, makes Peter, like, he immediately just grabs this VHS tape and starts messing around with it. Like, he turns it on, and even, like, Aunt May is like, oh my god, like, dude, I remember this day, and it was such a great day. And, like, and I'm glad, like, they showed, like, the whole video footage of it, like, and he then realizes, well, hey, there was a childhood friend, Eddie Brock. That was my dad's partner that worked with him. So he looks up Eddie Brock's name, and he finally, like, so he gets in contact with Eddie, and Eddie lives at ESU right now. He's going to college there. I believe, like, he's one of Dr. Connor's interns, and which is probably what inspired Spectacular Spider-Man. But with that being said, like, he's like, Peter, I got something to show you. And this, like, ends one of the perfect, like, the coolest comic book panels of it, where Peter's like, what is that? And he's like, this is our inheritance. And I absolutely love that line, and I've even used it in one of my fan films because I loved it so much. But with that being said, like, so I love that, like, Peter's, like, all for it. Well, he's not all for it, but he's like, yo, this was something that our fathers worked on. Stop shooting me! So Peter then finds these tapes from his father, which, like, pretty much say, like, hey, this suit, or, like, this black goo was supposed to be a suit that was able to cure cancer. That's all it was for. And, like, and they wanted to use it for military applications. And so Peter was pissed. And by the way, Gwen Stacy also kind of gets involved with Eddie Brock, and so also that's kind of sus. College guy talking to a 15-year-old or whatever. I don't really know what I'm saying. I don't have the knowledge to really be talking about this stuff. Eddie pretty much tries to make a move on Gwen, and it doesn't and, like, she's like, bro, what the fuck, and, like, leaves him, which apparently we find out later happens a lot to Eddie. Eddie pretty much is like pissed and runs over there, but while this is all happening, Peter breaks into the lab that he found the symbiote in, and he's like, I gotta test this out for myself. I just need to make sure what my fathers were working on was right, and all this stuff, and so this pretty much leads to the symbiote costume. Like, he gets one drop on his hand, and it expands, and all of a sudden he's in this like weird cocoon, and it's wild. Like, he comes out and all this stuff, and he finally and then the suit like finally forms over him, and he's like, what the hell is this? And it makes and it's really cool because like the suit does like crazy things for him, and like it helps him heal and all this stuff. And of course, I think he deals with Shocker again, which is really cool. And he's like, bro, that didn't even hurt. That kind of tickled, actually. So like in this, he's like, it doesn't last long, and legitly, he only spends a few hours in the costume, and like I'll start to get into it, but pretty much it leads to like Spider-Man trying to deal with this mugger, and it reminds him of his uncle's killer, and that like fuels the rage in the costume, and he turns into Venom, which is so cool. And I love that fact because this is the only time we see Venom with the actual spider symbol on him. Like, until this game, that's the only time we see Venom with the spider symbol on him. And I like the idea of that it comes just from the rage of Peter and that moment that he couldn't save his uncle. So I absolutely love that. He then like finally like gets a like little grip of reality to him, and Peter then like is like fighting the costume, and there's some really cool panels for it too. Like the artwork, by the way, I don't think I've said this enough, but the artwork from Mark Bagley in this is so fucking killer. Like, he was truly the only person that I think should have been the artist for Ultimate Spider-Man. They kind of switched the artists after a while, which is fine, but again, like, it just doesn't feel like Ultimate Spider-Man at that point. It kind of feels like a different comic book. And that's kind of how it felt with Ultimate 6, the Sinister Six storyline that they went with. It just felt like kind of a different story because they weren't doing it wasn't the same artist, and it just felt wrong. Like, it didn't look like Peter, it didn't look like, but it was Ultimate Peter and all this stuff. So Peter manages to get the suit off of him by hitting a lightning line or something like that. Oh god, I'm gonna die. He goes back to the lab and grabs the rest of the symbiote, and is like, and at this point, this is when I'm gonna die. So at this point, like, Eddie just got like dissed by Gwen Stacy and all this stuff because he tried making a move on her, and that clearly wasn't the move. And this then ends with like Eddie going to the lab for some reason, and he finds Peter there. And Peter, like, he doesn't have a costume or anything. Like, he found some clothes out of the garbage and is like, oh fuck, Eddie's here. And accidentally uses some of his spider strength on him, and then like Peter tells Eddie like everything. He starts going over everything. So this then leads Eddie to like he believes Peter and all this stuff, and it leads like Eddie on like a fucking wild, like, he's now enraged. Like, he was distraught at first, like, hearing all this, and then he gets enraged. And he's like, what? Peter thinks he knows better than me? Like, he's younger, all this stuff. And that leads Eddie to then try the suit for himself. Because he's like, well, if Peter can do it, I can definitely handle the suit. And of course he can't. Like, as we see right now, like, Eddie cannot handle the costume. And there's good reasons for that. After Eddie finally, like, he doesn't gain control of the suit, but he finally, like, Venoms out, and he then, there's, like, a rainy day at school, and then all of a sudden, Peter, like, notices that Eddie's outside, and he's like, fuck, I gotta fight this guy. And they have, and you guys have seen this in the beginning of this game where he fights Venom in the football field. And I freaking love that. Like, it's such a cool encounter because there's also like voiceover from Peter's dad, like, and it's really just like the sins of the father just like coming back. And I love the idea of that. Like, there's no other way that you can do that other than how they did it. And of course their fight kind of comes to a stalemate where Venom gets electrocuted and Peter thinks that Venom is like gone. But of course, like, that's not the end of the whole arc of Venom. So Peter is like now down in his dumps. He doesn't have MJ, he doesn't have Eddie. Like, Eddie he thinks is pretty much dead. Well, he doesn't think Eddie's dead, but he definitely knows that Eddie's gone now. And it was all his fault. Peter has this conversation. Peter has this conversation with Nick Fury where he's like, yo, whatever you do, just please get this power away from me. Like, I'm so sick of it. And again, like, Nick Fury like is like, hey, no, we can't do that. But what I was saying was, you can work for me after you're 18 and you could be one of the Avengers. And so that kind of gives him not a little bit of light, but like kind of a little bit of hope or something like that, where he then he then goes and tries to find out what happens with Eddie, but he can't find Eddie, and it kind of deals with something a little bit more. But I mean, I'm gonna try and actually end this Let's Play off after this, just because after this cutscene, just because we're kind of getting into the thick of it right now. So, what was that? But the way this ends is like he's like, oh my, and he has a conversation with Doc Connors too, and he's like, have you seen Eddie? And he's like, I don't know, like, and Dr. Connors has been drinking, and been drinking heavily since we haven't seen it, but there was a whole encounter with the Lizard and Spider-Man that gets kind of told in this conversation, like, and all this stuff. So with that being said, that's where Peter like jumps out of there and is all mad, and then he's like, wait a minute, did I just see Eddie? And it kind of just leaves him alone. Don't worry guys, I'm going to finish this game in the next Let's Play for you guys. What did you guys think of this Let's Play in the comments down below? And remember, if there's any questions that you have and you want read out on the Let's Plays, be sure to leave them down there for me. Remember to leave a like on this video. Remember to hit that subscribe button, because the subscribe button's going to be waiting for everyone. Deuces, y'all.